Everyone. I'm Brett Esler. We're just going through the current ballot period info session. Yeah, we'll go through a little bit about ballot process and also what to do to vote in the HL7 Australia ballots. Okay, so the purpose of running an HL7 Australia ballot is to perform a formal feedback period to allow people participating to actually submit issues and vote on them against the standards that are offered for ballot. These issues must be considered by the committee responsible through the ballot reconciliation, and that ensures that there is good feedback on the material being presented. It's a great way to assess acceptance of a ballot and a specification. It provides a formal result in terms of positive and negative voting, and gives us a criteria to make a decision that the specification is fit for purpose and able to be used for real. The other thing that a ballot gives us is a recognition, as a formal result of the status of that particular specification. So there are three different levels of specification balloting: draft for comment, working standard, and normative standards. Draft for comment is really a mechanism to gain feedback with an intent to keep working on the standard into the future to eventually ballot for a final version. Working standard is equivalent to a trial use standard, suitable for testing and also early production work. It's considered fit for purpose, but it has no backwards compatibility rules applied. So there may be changes in the future. Normative standards are considered complete standards. There's little reason or necessity to change the content in a normative standard. There are backwards compatibility rules built into that maintenance, and so that is essentially the final destination for a particular standard. So in our current ballot period running through February and March we have a single fire RG going through ballot, the patient summary R1 working standard. So this is the first working standard version of this specification. So we're seeking feedback on that and hopefully approval to publish that for use. There's a link there through to the ballot detail that has important dates and other information there. So the overall cycle for producing going through ballot is to develop the specification content. So this is the normal committee work that happens through to develop specifications. We have a notice of intent to ballot, which is a formal submission that the committees make to state that they intend to go to ballot for approval. There's a sign-up period for the ballot. If you're participating, you've already done that. You've signed up to participate. There's a formal ballot period, so the ballot is open for a month to be able to submit issues and vote on them. And that gives ample opportunity to feedback. Issues raised through that period require votes on them to be considered as part of the reconciliation, and the committees will go through all of those voted on issues as part of their ballot reconciliation. So work begins immediately as soon as those issues are voted on, and the committee starts to resolve those and hopefully to the satisfaction of the submitter. So to give an idea of the overall process, the main initial part of the process is to develop the content. And once that content's essentially heading towards a release, the committees can submit a notice of intent to ballot or a NIB. That goes to the ballot manager. The ballot manager We'll then pass that on to the technical steering committee. The technical steering committee will assess criteria to say the material is fit to go to ballot, and if approved, we'll then move on to being allowed to release that version to publish it and release it for the ballot period. So there's actually a formal ballot version of the specification produced, and that content's published, ready for voting. So as part of this process also, the ability to vote is set up in the HL7 International Jira system. So the specific ballot and voters that have signed up are submitted to the system, and then that allows the individual voters to cast their votes against the fire RG that's been published. So to actually be on that list, you need to enrol. So that enrollment period allows us to gather those voters and then submit them into HL7 International to produce the working ballot in the HL7 International Jira tools. Once the sign-ups are finished, there's a ballot period that's run. The voting is opened at that point in the Jira system, and issues can be raised against the specification and voted on. So basically, this is the period where votes are cast, issues are raised, and there's a period of a month there that the review process can take place. At the end of that, the ballot will be closed. No more votes will be able to be cast on issues that have been submitted, and we can continue on with our reconciliation processes. So the committees are responsible for looking at all the issues raised through and voted on through the ballot period. So the reconciliation will go through those, and the committee will work through disposing of those. This may result in changes to the specification. This may result with findings that the things being raised are not persuasive by consensus, and also there's possibility of deferring future work as well as part of the cycle. So once the committee has completed its work, it's considered all of the issues in ballot. Typically, there will be a request to withdraw votes that are negative from the participants. So an official notice will go out to participants to consider withdrawing their negative votes. This is an opportunity for the voters to consider whether the resolution achieved on their issue is satisfactory to them, and gives them the chance to change their vote to a positive affirmative vote through the process to hopefully pass the required ballot tallies to pass the standard publication. So the Jira balloting system. So basically, you need to be able to find your own ballot submission. So we'll go through that in a minute. And once you've got, you found that, it'll be for this specific specification, in this case, patient summary R1, and you'll be able to vote on that directly in a couple of ways. That can let you also, as well, if you want to raise specific issues, you can create that issue in the Jira system for the specification and then vote on that issue to show that you are casting a vote with specific details of an issue supplied. So the ways you can vote in the ballot. Initially, you start off with a no vote recorded against you. That means you have basically not voted yet, and you are not part of the quorum. There's nothing recorded in terms of your participation. For this ballot, you can also vote abstain. Abstention means you have no position for or against the publication. Typically, this is a good thing to do if you have some reason you couldn't get around to considering the content, or you really have no opinion as to whether you want to consider pass or fail this particular ballot. It is possible to vote affirmative on the entire specification, which means you approve of its content entirely. You have no issues to raise, and you can essentially consider it good to be published. And then there's a couple of options under raising an issue. You can raise a specific issue with details on that issue. So that is a way to provide the committees with details on what you think needs to change. And there's a couple of ways to vote on that. You can vote affirmative, which is pretty much aimed at providing feedback that you consider would not be something that would block the publication of the standard. You might have suggestions for changes of wording or clarifications, but you don't think if those changes didn't happen, you'd still be okay that the ballot was published. And there's also negative votes. So negative votes are where you think the specification is not fit for purpose to be released as it is, and you really want a particular change to be made. So that's essentially a negative vote overall. Any negative votes mean your overall negative vote will be negative, and you'll be considered not happy to publish the standard at that point. So when raising issues, there's a number of different types of issue that can be raised. A technical correction is for something that is obvious and non-impactful. So things like typos, grammar, formatting and layout are typical issues that are raised, typically editorial in nature. These are handled by the co-chairs. The co-chairs will assess these and try and resolve them directly. These are things that don't need to go to committee. On the other hand, change requests are things that will change the meaning, intent and content of the specification. It'll impact the users of the specification. So these are things that are actually changing the specification in a meaningful way, and these will need to be considered by committee before the changes can be made. There is also the option of question and comment issue raising. These are not considered as things that need to be resolved by committee. They may be passed on to the committee, or the co-chairs may respond to questions directly. So when voting on issues, you have a few options when you raise an issue against the specification. One option is the no vote option, which is you actually don't vote on the issue in ballot. That's a good way to go if you think you have something that's new work, is obviously expanding the content of the specification. So really is aimed at looking at future work and additions in next versions of the specification. So that's something you may consider if you just want to raise issues that are not necessarily going to be handled through the ballot period, but want to be logged. And then you have the option of voting affirmative or negative on a particular issue. So affirmative issues, votes on issues, are something that you're comfortable the specification can proceed to be published. These are things that may not need to be addressed immediately. So you're happy enough to raise them as a thing you'd like changed, but you don't think it would change the fact that the ballot shouldn't be published. There's also a negative vote, on the other hand, is where you believe it's not the specification is not fit for purpose, and you need to deal with, need it dealt with to be able to have it resolved before the specification is fit to go out. Okay, so the ballot desktop. Now, the ballot desktop is a nice way to get in and find your submission for the ballot, and gives us access to the ability to start voting. So going through on that previous link, you can find your ballot desktop, the HL7 balloting dashboard. So on the left here is a list of all the specifications you're registered to vote on. There's also summaries of issues that you've raised and details on the right. So having found that, you can then go ahead and start voting. So we'll take you through what that looks like. So let's just bring that up. Yeah, going through on into the dashboards area. In the popular dashboards, you can see there's an HL7 balloting dashboard. I favorited that one because I use it all the time. So if you go in there and see your balloting dashboard, you'll see currently there's the patient summary specification is up for ballot. So this is actually my own personal link through to be able to vote. You'll see at the moment my status is showing no vote, which means I haven't yet done any voting on the system. So if I click through on that, I'll go through to my ballot submission. So you see my overall status of no vote. From here, I can do the top level voting. So it is possible for me to abstain or vote affirmative on the specification. So if I was happy that the ballot should pass, I can vote affirmative. There's information on each of these vote steps to be able to give you details on what it means to vote this way. So if I go ahead and do that, you'll see that my ballot is now showing as an affirmative vote against this specification. You can always back out of this too, so I can drop back to no vote. So now I'm back to no vote state. So from here, there's a couple of links here to be able to raise issues directly. You can either raise issues in Jira by creating an issue or clicking one of these links to create an issue. Or you can go and find other issues that people have submitted and go and vote on them directly as well. So if I go through and say raise a change request, this will open up the Jira issue creation. It's set to already be on the patient summary specification. I'm going to mark that against the ballot version that's currently published, and we can go this issue being raised here. So as part of raising an issue, you need to identify exactly where the problem is in the spec. So that might be one of the artifacts in the system or some of the pages that are provided as part of the publication. It's possible to put links in as well and maybe section details if that's relevant. So when raising an issue in Jira, we really appreciate it in the committee work if you can say what the problem is, what is the specific problem, and also suggestions on how to fix it. So it's really important that we have a really clear picture of what you think the problem is and what would be a good resolution for you to actually resolve that problem. Problems that are raised without solutions are much more difficult to deal with. We're not sure we're going to be addressing it the way you think we should. So yeah, the clearer you are in this area, the better it is. So once you've gone through and filled in an issue, you can go ahead and create it. So whilst this issue is now created for the specification, there's no votes cast on it yet. So you need to actually go in the issue details here. You have the option of voting affirmative or negative. So in this case, if I was thinking this was an issue, I would like it fixed, but I don't need it fixed in this version, I could vote affirmative, and that just confirms that what that means when you are comfortable with proceeds to publication if it's not addressed immediately, and so that is something now I can vote on. So having voted on that issue, if I look at my overall ballot status, so if I go back to my own ballot over here, with my own ballot here, you'll see my overall status is now affirmative, and it's listing this issue I've just raised. So if I go ahead and say create another issue, so another test. This lets us, so you can add in multiple issues. So, and yet, please, just one problem per issue is desirable. So we'll just go through and add that to the testing. We'll vote on the right version and go and create that. So this is a new issue that's created. And then we can, now, if I think this is a serious issue, I can vote negative. So that's asserting I do not believe the specification should proceed to publication. And if I go ahead and vote on that, that's now logged as well as a negative vote. So if I go back to my overall ballot status, you can see now, because I have a negative vote, my overall status has switched to negative, and I am, I'm now saying it shouldn't proceed. There's particular problems here. So these can go through and be resolved as part of the reconciliation. You may decide to withdraw your vote, and there's approaches then there to retract your votes as well. So if you, through the ballot period, change your mind and want to take a valid vote off, that's possible. And also, at the end of the day, there'll be a request to withdraw those votes if you have your change made that you asked for, or there's some resolution you're happy enough with. So overall, that's pretty much the process for an individual. Now, if we look out at the top level ballot definition, this is the entry for the particular specification. You can see that there's a tally running here with voters on it. There's a list of all the voters in the ballot, so that everyone here that's involved, you can see how they're voting, and you can even click through and see their issues. As you can see, the negative vote here has been recorded. I can see I'm coming up in the tally here as a negative, and then that lets us essentially see what's happening at a high level. So the committee will review this, and also co-chairs, and then we can track people down to talk to them. Reconciliation itself goes over some weeks or months. There's an opportunity to request in-person resolution if you desire that. But pretty much the committee will work through the process and announce what they're working on as part of the reconciliation process. So that is pretty much the requirement. So if we go through, there's an email there if you need to contact anyone to get assistance with voting, or you're having problems with the voting system, or contact your co-chairs. In this case, it's the ballots running under the AU Core work group, so any of the co-chairs from the work group can either direct you to someone that can help, or can help you themselves. And that's probably all for today. So thanks for your time.